Live tonight from the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 9 of the 2021 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series. For the biggest track of the NASCAR calendar, we welcome you into the RaceSpotTV booth, where as always alongside myself, Evan Pasoka, happy to be joined by Jonathan Burke on the call. We'll also have our RaceSpotTV in-race reporter Dylan Coyle and our producer Hugo Luis with us this evening. Talladega, though, ever since we survived Daytona way back at the start of this season, this was the highlighted race. We've had first-time winners. We've had the points championship swing several times, and through all of that, we kept saying we won't know, Jonathan, how this championship picture will look like headed into next week at Vegas until we get through tonight. It is the one last big question mark left on this season.
I think you summed it up perfectly by just saying survived Daytona. We have to survive Talladega. The Winter Series has been here 3 times. We average 4 cautions and only 30 cars tend to make it home, but many of them will lap down due to crashes. So it's going to be about just avoiding the calamity and really making sure you're in the right place at the wrong time. If you get caught in a wreck, none of your own doing, you're not going to be done.
That's the thing, is you want to survive. Some drivers may opt to hang back towards the rear of the field and hope that they can play it safe, right? Avoid a big one, survive to the end. Other drivers with the opposite thing in mind, thinking, hey, I need points, I'm going to go up front and race this one out. Let's take a look at the championship standings into tonight through 8 rounds of competition. Matt Danson taking back over the championship points lead by 4 points, the difference between he and Andrew Friedage. Of course, that swing coming after his win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course last week. Everybody else, third on back, going to be a great fight amongst those drivers, but it is a 2-horse race. Danson, Friedage, either or of them could, in theory, so their championship hopes fall apart here tonight if they both just survive. Either if they both wreck out or if they both finish up front. As long as they're close, Jonathan, and only, not just one of them has issues, we could be in store for an incredible finale in 1 week's time. But again, tonight, the big question mark as we go racing for 75 laps and 200 miles.
Yeah, it's all about just being at the right place at the right time. There's several different ways to really approach Talladega, especially if you're Danson or Friedage. Do you ride it out at the back and hope for the best? Do you try and get up front and lead and be in front of all the chaos as possible? Those are really the only 2 options you can go with, and it really depends also on their starting position. If both of them start towards the front, well, you might as well stay up there. If both start towards the rear, well, might as well stay in the back. It's just going to be about positioning throughout the race, and when, the time comes when we get into like 20 laps to go, maybe 15 laps to go, then that's going to be, the dinner bell for everyone to try and go home and get that checkered flag.
And there you look at the race winners over the course. It's been a lot of streaks since the top. Of course, we saw Dominic Howe take the win in the season opener, but then it was Friedage. Then Danson, Eberhardt won 2 in a row, and now your championship top 2 have traded them back-to-back. Friedage and Danson, winners of each of the last 2. But for Friedage, it's been 2 wins in the last 6-7 weeks of competition. Even for Danson, it's been 3 in the last 7. So he's been in a little bit of a better position. But again, there can only be so much preparation because, yes, I think we're right, Jonathan, to talk about this championship here tonight, right? That's obviously the focus. But this is one of the few races, admittedly, on this calendar in which all 30-some-odd cars that are in the field here tonight can win, right? There's a lot of drivers that work real hard for top 5s, top 10s as we take a live look in at single car qualifying now. But in all honesty, the 30th and the 20th place guys maybe can't beat out the guys like Friedage and Danson at an Iowa or at an IRP. But here at Talladega, it's everybody's game. So while your championship contenders are obviously feeling the weight and the pressure of this, everybody else in the field probably going to give it to them just as hard as they will anywhere else because they feel like this is their opportunity to be an RSR winner.
Yeah, and this is a really good opportunity for some people to kind of show their stuff and show how good they are in close quarters, how good they are in the draft. A lot of people may not like the short track racing, and we haven't had a big 1.5 mile yet till next week, so there are a number of guys in this field that I think want to show off their skills that only have these last 2 weeks to do it.
So it is single car qualifying as always, and let's bring in, as you heard him there, the third member of our broadcast team is one of those drivers who's looking for a trip to victory lane here tonight. Dylan R. Coyle. Yeah, no pressure. I mean, we go to you, and we've talked about maybe some of the challenges that you faced in these last couple of weeks, but today's a very different beast. So what are you expecting out of Talladega tonight?
I'm hoping not to wreck anybody. That's the goal. Like Devin Winfield, although I don't think he's in this race, so I don't think I'll be able to wreck him like I did at Daytona. Still sorry about that. It's all about, for me at least, being conservative with at least at the start, trying to keep one foot hovering above the brake pedal just in case something happens, and making sure you're not going full throttle the entire time, because that's going to lead to disaster. You're always going to have much more speed than the guy in front, causes a stack up, things happen. Looks like right now I've got a really good starting spot. Yeah, ninth is where I'm going to start. First top 10 start of the year. So that's a nice thing.
Could possibly be a sign of things to come.
Stop it.
You guys get ready to do battle for 75 laps here tonight for the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. Let's go trackside and take a look at your IWRAPS starting grid. Daniel Eberhardt on pole position for this one as he eyes a third win of the season, just squeaking out atop Andrew Farinaj, who will start from second. Garrett Hess, Jared Weinmaster going to start from the second row in third and fourth. Jared Weinmaster there. Kyle Kamer inside of a top 5 spot with David Washington, first start in a couple of weeks, P6. James Ross Cato going to be 7th and 8th, and it's Dylan Coyle there in P9 alongside Sam Nieto and Jonathan, our top 10.
Brian Shameless and Braxton DeReese just outside the top 10. These are two guys that definitely could use a win here at Talladega. Moving on to the field, Mara Brothers again sharing a row, and this time it's row 7, 13th and 14th. Michael Lariah, who, if both championship contenders wreck out and he wins, might have a shot in the 15th. Stephen Price in the 22 in P16. Jeremy Miller in the 27 and P17. Joseph Tice in the 1. Shown flashes of greatness all season in P18. Liam Sheen in the 77 and 19th. And Gary Weaver rounds out your top 20.
And continuing on through, Trevin Valderrama going to be 21st alongside Steve Durham in 22nd, Tom Morano 23rd, and Matt Danson way down in 24th spot. You got Silver, Kalis through the top 26. Those will be the final drivers to take times in qualifying, so provisionals go to Agnell Phillip, Kyle Trudell, John Ellenberg, and Eric Stanford, the top 30.
Release Lachinsky and Joe Berge as well, provisionals starting at the rear of the field. And we were talking in our pre-race, that might be a good place to start. Michael Kaczynski, Bobby Krug, and Michael Moser, Kaczynski and Krug as well. Those are some midfield guys that may want to try and pick off a win here. Starting at the rear of the field, maybe a good way to start this race.
Two very different ideas, and we'll have all the angles covered through the field here tonight. There's a look at a RaceSpotTV onboard cameras. Matt Mara, Bobby Krug, Dylan Coyle, Gary Weaver, Trevin Valderrama, Ross Cato. We'll be checking in with them over the course of this race. Looks like Dylan's ready to go there in the top right corner. Of course, we all know the tail of the tape at Talladega Superspeedway, right? 2.66 miles. The bigger brother track, if you will, to Daytona International Speedway. Of course, that tri-oval, not where the start-finish line's located, a little bit further down to 1 and 2. That could be a difference maker in who wins and who does not here tonight. And this track's significantly wider as well, Jonathan, compared to Daytona. So if they want to get a little bit more spread out, 2-3 wide, certainly this track lends itself more to it. Tonight's race, 75 laps, already touched the net, so that's 199.5 miles.
It's a bit wide, and it's going to be interesting to see what draft lines come into play, whether it be the bottom or the top, and how many lead changes we get. We've raced here 3 times. We're averaging 34 lead changes. That's 1 lead change every 2 laps in this group. And we're talking about the championship, but keep an eye on this 90 machine. It was up front last year at Talladega, won the race here last year, qualifies on pole. I think the 90 machine wants to stay up there.
He's a good, aggressive driver, which can either help or hinder his chances of a win here. A guy who he's like in that aspect is David Washington. I think this is his first race for a while. He is also going to be an aggressive driver trying to go to the front. So no shortage of action that's going to happen here. And by the way, pace car's going in, but we still have a while to go before that start-finish line.
Got to keep it steady at about 70 miles an hour. The field into the hands of the number 90 Ford of Daniel Eberhardt. 8 rounds down, 2 races left to go this season. The RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series, and happy you're spending your Monday night with us here on RaceSpotTV as we say, let's go racing from Talladega. Pretty even for much of the opening lap, and now it's Eberhardt from the bottom to the top side. He'll get a push from the 48 of Jaron Weinmaster, challenging the 88 of Faridaj. The first lap led, and the first bonus point to your pole sitter.
Yeah, the first few cars in the top line got going, but then it really did not get formed up. I think the 2, Sam Nieto, I think was dropping back maybe to find his teammate Michael Loraya. But now everyone's kind of formed up when you have these 2 even lines. And it's going to be a tail of the lines all day. Which one is stronger? And right now, that 48 is proven to be a very, very good pusher.
And sometimes, you know, the outside of the racetrack's always going to be kind of the moving lane. The bottom is where you kind of go if you want to maintain position, but there will be points tonight where the top's better, going to be points tonight where the bottom's better. So if you're willing to be that aggressive, could make decisions to move up, move down, try to stick with the speed, or you kind of play it safe, stick in a line, and try not to rock the boat too much. There's a look already to a third lane, and it is the 3 of Braxton Deweese. He has drafting help from the 27 to Jeremy Miller, but the only 2 drivers to go up to the outside is Faridaj gets an all-important bonus point by leading lap 2.
Yeah, lead changes are going to come here, and they're going to come here quickly. Especially, again, with these 2 lines seemingly even right at the front. The side drafting going to be also key. You know, who's going to be the more aggressive side drafter? And if it goes wrong, it will go wrong in a hurry. So we're 3 wides in this middle group. Deweese is making good progress on the really, really high side.
Even though it's just the 2 of them, they're able to hold Steve Durham over the radio saying with Liam Sheen, who's drafted with him, hey man, I'm not in a rush because they're 3 wide up there, and I don't necessarily want to be in that at this part of the race. You can see that very bottom line through the tri-oval, a little bit of a rough ride there. Car's going to be bouncing around, they'll get a little bit loose, so that's also something to keep an eye on tonight, is you don't necessarily want to be pushing that aggressively all the way through as we go on board with Cato. 4th car in line in the middle, you can't see, but to his right-hand side is that 3 Deweese on the outside, but it looks like the middle started to be a bit stronger.
Yeah, it really just depends on how smooth you can keep it out of these corners, but look at that run by the 3 car and the 27. I think that's Highline all, by the way, by the wall. Maybe a line to go to later on in this race. As you can see, they get a huge run into the corner, but just can't maintain it through the corner.
And maybe if they get some more support, it's more of an option, although Cato's going to make the decision to drop it down to the inside line. It might cost him spots in the short term, but again, the bottom is kind of the safer bet for drivers who want to maintain and not necessarily kind of hang themselves out, per se. And there goes the drafting help, right? Miller was helping Deweese. He drops down to the bottom. Valderrama going to draft up pretty quick. You got the 22 of Stephen Price, and just as it started to look good, Deweese going to lose all that track position that he made up.
Yeah, but that's just kind of the way this racing works. You have a dance partner for a little bit, and then sometimes those partners got to break up. And in this case, the 27 said, adios, Braxton. He moves up really far. Look for that 27, I think, late in the race to make some runs as we get a little more spread out, I think, in the field. Everyone's kind of calming down, just kind of testing the waters of how everyone wants to race so far.
And you're on board with the Valderrama there as he now finds himself middle lane. Started this race back in 21st, but he's one of those drivers that is not opposed to getting up to the front and getting into the picture instead of hanging back is on the move, and now the 22 of Price ends up squeezed out 3 wide. DeWeese to the bumper of Valderrama, and he'll get him into a top 10 running position. They are right now 4th in line on that top side of the racetrack. Jaron Winemaster still leading that line at the moment, followed by the 88 of Farinaj. Again, I noted, importantly, a bonus point was granted to Farinaj by leading a lap. That's a big advantage in his hopes to close in on a 4-point championship lead that Matt Danson had into tonight. High and above the Talladega Superspeedway. You'll see this outside, get the run here off of turn 4, and they challenge down to the start-finish line.
I'm not liking what I'm seeing with some of the action in front of me. It just seems like a lot of cars are struggling to keep it straight, which obviously will lead to a lot more bobbing and weaving and potentially wrecks. And we don't want to see that here. At least I don't want to see that. You might.
Speaking of not keeping it straight, I think Eberhard either got a little loose or went up to try and block Aaron Winemaster, and it got a little touchy there for a second. So yeah, you can sit there, Dylan. That's a good spot.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, if I want to, let's just say it goes green for a long time. If I want to, I can get a big run here, because there's a lot of air being punched through right now, and while they all have to kind of just take it 80%, I can take it 100% and get a few more miles per hour than others. This is if I wanted to gain some speed and gain some positions. I do not right now.
Yeah, you can go join
he's
Nick
vibing,
Silver.
is what he's saying.
I don't
Just
know if I'm
hanging out.
vibing. I don't.
Not quite.
Can we get some RaceSpotTV intro music? I vibe to that.
I think Dylan needs a vibe check. He's still early in this one. It's only lap number 8, but it's already a 10th of the way through. You can see all that shuffling, though. Like the 22 of Price squeeze to the outside, but even at the front, I mean, looks like Winemaster thinking about trying to get underneath Eberhard. He'll go all the way down now to the yellow line atop the 88 machine of Farinaj there. That's always the movement that scares me. It's not if a line has a run, it's people changing lanes.
Scares me.
Well, that's why I've opted not to drive at all, because then I don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, you won the now defunct and forgotten about throwback series at, Talladega?
I also won, though, the IWRAPS series race once upon a time, way back when, so that was fun.
Oh, you see that big move up front? I think someone got a little loose.
Farinaj,
I don't like
the
that.
88 car, from the very bottom to the very outside, and admittedly, it looked like he just wasn't feeling what was going on and hit the eject button. Because look, Eberhardt's going to follow him through, so Price has to snake to the bottom, but it looks like the 90 and the 88 machine got what they wanted. They wanted a single bonus point for leading a lap. There's going to be so many different drivers that lead laps here tonight that extra bonus point, the bonus point for the most laps led, is going to be awfully more difficult here tonight than it is in most cases. So I think that's mission accomplished. They both get a bonus point, they drop back, and they hand the battle for the race lead off to Kamer in the 8 car, who will get his bonus point. He leads the outside. The double O of Garrett Hess working the bottom, and now James Ross pulls the parachute. He'll dot down to the apron and also get way out of this lead group.
Yeah, well, I think for Eberhardt's own good, he had to, because he came down and blocked Freenod regressively. That was what we usually see with like 15 to go style move, but now Winemaster is going to push Kamer to the front. And again, this 48 car, I think, is just the best pusher in this field. He's been able to keep it really steady whenever someone's on his front bumper, whether it be Freenod, Eberhardt, or now Kyle Kamer. So I think everyone's going to watch him to be there at the end of the race and maybe make that race-winning move.
Wanted to mention also issues early in this race for Sam Nieto, who was supposed to start in 10th. He dropped connection from the race and is back on track now, 5 laps down. So a tough break for Nieto, who was looking for a good showing in this one. His race, in effect, done. Going to be awfully challenging to get now 6, in fact, laps back. As he was out there on his own. I just don't see him getting back into the conversation. Could get a couple of spots here or there if some drivers are involved in incidents over the course of this night. But a lot of drafted up front. I mean, they are on each other's bumper. That's Hess pushing Kamer on the bottom and Miller pushing Winemaster on the outside. They're working hard. Liam Sheen up into the picture. How about the 77 Toyota, 3rd in line on the outside? Now he's up there after starting 19th.
Yeah, I think we're seeing like the guys that want to be up front, and it's a lot of these guys that have been running and in that midfield on a lot of these short tracks, and they need those extra bonus points to gain some point spots. They want to kind of show what they're made of here. And Miller pushes Winemaster to the lead, and Winemaster goes to the bottom. Again, 27-48. I think best drafters, best pushers in the field.
Early on, there's not much to be gained 12 laps into a 75-lap race on a super speedway, minus if you're really worried about that one bonus point, right? And for those that are in tight championship battles, totally valid thing to go for. But you're not going to win this race at lap number 12. You could certainly lose it if you're involved in an incident, or if you decide, listen, up front's way too aggressive, I'm going to drop back, but you don't want to be too far back. Dylan, how do you walk that line? You're about 1.7 seconds off for the race leader, still in touch, but there's other drivers behind you who are even more, way out of the conversation. You got another group of cars, another pack, 6 seconds behind.
Yeah, I like my line of thinking a little bit more, because I want to be where there could be some openings, but I don't want to be anywhere where there could be some more group action. And there are some drivers behind me who want to make some moves. Daniel Eberhardt, Nick Silver are not content with being on the low line. I'm very happy with just being down here and just trying to play it cool. I'm taking a lot off the throttle. It's a long race. There's no point to try and gain a ton of positions at the risk of having an issue down the line, in my opinion.
Starting to get up to where that side by set is, I'll ask you while we got you talking. What is pit strategy looking like for this one?
Well, strategy is really dependent on when there are pit stops. I mean, out of every track, every race that you could possibly have on the calendar, tires matter the least here. Daytona has, like you said earlier, it's much tighter. So the exits are going to be much tighter, and you're going to have to turn the wheel more. Not so much here at Dega. The only thing, I would not be surprised if some guys opt to not get tires at all, or maybe just go for right side tires if we are to at a place where, things could happen. But on fuel, we can go almost the entire race. So that's kind of, in my opinion, or in my mind, what's happening. It's a lot.
You can see even more separation, Jonathan, up at the front here. 3 cars on the outside, but everybody else has kind of dropped down to the bottom. It's just Sheen, Price, and Hess up there at the moment. Kamer kind of non-committal, but he'll go back down to the inside. It does look like at least drivers are starting to take it a little bit easier than they were in the opening 10 laps. Yeah,
I think so. Look at who's back here with me. It's Andrew Farinaj. He's racing for a title. He's not someone that oh no, we might have an issue in front. Car in the wall, looks like.
10 car of Steve Durham. He's all out of shape, but he's going to be okay. It was up the road from this group we were looking at with Kaczynski and Mosier and Ibarra, but I think everybody is okay. Just a bit of a miscommunication of the drivers on that outside line. Durham wanted to go to a third lane, then didn't. Maybe Hess came up and they just checked up. They're okay. There's a look at Durham in the purple and black Chevy Camaro. I think he actually gets away without any damage. So that's your mulligan. You avoided a close one there.
Right?
It just goes to show you, though, even when these drivers kind of back off a little bit and give each other some more space, that doesn't always guarantee the safety of the cars around, because something like that can happen so quick.
Well, look at just the action happening right in front, too, on the high side. Eberhardt is really wanting to get up there, and I don't feel necessarily comfortable with these two drivers right now, both Tom Morano and Eberhardt. Danson is the lead of the other group. Farinaj is around me. Braxton Deweese. I feel comfortable where I am as the last car. I can't lose the draft, though. That's a big thing. Do not lose the draft is what I'm telling myself. But it's definitely thinned out. You're going to see some small little discrepancies. I'm not sure I trust. No offense to Tom, but from what I'm seeing, him and Eberhardt, I don't know if I trust both of them right in front. So left foot, a little bit on the brake.
Well, you're officially the caboose because you're about 3 seconds off at the top spot, but you were the last driver in touch. with this kind of pseudo lead pack. We're now on board with the Bobby Krug, and you'd think this is a battle for the race lead. I mean, they're side by side, but this is that whole other pack that is 19th position on the back. So John Ellenberg is that car way up the road, leading the inside train here in 19th position. He was 8.6 seconds off for the race leader. It's going to be even further back from the race leader this next time by. So I wonder if it's because there's more side-by-side back here than up towards the front, if that's why this second pack just loses time and time and time. But, I mean, they are to the point where without a yellow at some point in this race, Jonathan, I mean, they're too far back, right? So you want to stay back maybe to play it safe, but that's why I mentioned right off at the top that sometimes there is such thing as too far back, and this is basically its own race back here.
Yeah, and this is the group that I had a bunch of teammates trying to pick up each other. You can see the two teammates right there, the 44 and the 2. They try to pick each other up early, but Nieto timed out. You can see the team. Oh, no, big crash.
And the wreck it in the back. The 30 car is up and on its lid, and a caution at lap number 18. We were just talking about this group as being the drivers who were likely trying to play it safe, and I believe the one of Tice is the driver who got turned, maybe contact with James Ross. You see the end of it there. That's Kuczynski on his lid and sliding down the banking. It all started when Ross gave a touch to the right rear of Joseph Tice into turn 3. That's how that one got up and into the wall, and you can see how they piled in from there.
It's interesting hearing all of the chatter. There's a lot of frustration here. Gary, Danson, Mara, a lot of people upset with what happened, saying, I think it was Weaver saying, maybe it was Weaver, saying, you know what, it's funny that we're in the back, trying not to wreck, and then we wreck.
Yeah, Matt Danson has a lot to say about that. Of course, we know his predicament as one of the championship contenders with Farinaj, and talking about, you know, if we're going to go to the back to not get in a wreck, let's do just that. So Danson got way on the brakes. It basically just came to a stop to avoid that incident. He was back there in that group, but is not going to be involved in this in any way. He'll be fine, and your other championship contender in Farinaj was well out in front of it in 15th position, so no points implications from that, but at least a half a dozen cars damaged, going to be down pit road, but so is everybody else with 56 laps left to go. Let's see what the call is going to be for your leaders, possibly a lot of just fuel only.
Yeah, just top it off, give him a little more security.
Oh,
you run a lot of laps
Sheen, by the way, missed his box by like 2 pit stalls. He wasn't even close, and that's going to cost him time.
That's why you practice, Euro. You practice getting in and out.
I think I've done that so many times, not practicing a pit entry or a pit box entry, pit road entry, and needing to do it under green, and realizing that was probably not the greatest of decisions. Your top 8 drivers, in fact, sorry, only your top 3 drivers get to stay out, but Garrett Hess is the first car off of the pit lane. It is a very short 8.6 seconds in the pit stall for the driver of the 00. That was fuel only for him, and that's kind of what we were expecting. I know that, Dylan, you had mentioned that we were close to all the way. There's Liam Sheen. You can see him in the 1 car. His pit stall's behind Tice, so he wasn't even close. There's Ross backing up. Looks like Miller barely got in, so a lot of drivers struggling, but you know, Dylan, I know you mentioned you guys were almost able to do this whole race with fuel, so with 56 left, is this good without a yellow?
We should be good. We should be good. Yeah, we should be good. Looking at my tires, by the way, to give you a bit of insight, 100s and 99%. So, no big deal. Tires are fine.
So ready to rock for the rest of this, but also James Ross claiming responsibility for the incident, so he'll get it into the longest line of penalty, find himself towards the rear of the field for the next restart. So that'll put him to the rear, and some different faces up front. In fact, of course, with your top 3 staying out, it'll be John Ellenberg, Kyle Trudell, and Marius Leszczynski, 1, 2, and 3. Those drivers started 29th, 28th, and 31st, respectively. But they're now your top 3 cars.
I wonder
and most notably, they're on the same team. They were all running back there with their teammate of Lashinsky trying to just ride it out, and unfortunately that 30 car of Kaczynski's got taken out. So maybe this is the new strategy for Extreme. Just be up front, just stay up there.
I wonder if they're in the line of thinking that they might not even come down to the pits at all, because there's bound to be more cautions. And, you know, there might be no big reason to go back down into the pits. Maybe there was a nice strategy call.
I was just looking to see if we were getting lights out on the pace car that time, and we are. So this restart will put 21 laps behind us. We'll take a restart with 54 laps to go. Probably the longest, you know, stretch or feeling stretch that you would feel like to the end of this race. Normally, when we're talking about we've made our final pit stop and good to go, feels like we're much deeper into it. But this race, you know, just past 1 quarter distance. So if Talladega trends are to be believed, and Jonathan, I know you looked at some of the past race results and lead changes and yellows and all that. I think the trends would suggest don't hold your breath on a 54-lap marathon to the end.
No, don't hold your breath. We got probably 1 or 2 more cautions in this, which is why I think maybe this move by Ellenberg, Trudell, and Lashinsky is a good one. Get out front, stay out front. That seems to be where the Lexington action is happening at the time, but again, we don't know. It depends on who you're around, really.
Right.
It depends on how people are around. We saw the 14 just get in the back of the one in the corner, and that just triggered a whole pileup. So it only takes one car to start a domino effect.
I feel pretty comfortable around some guys like Braxton Deweese. Yeah, I think Deweese was a good driver to be around, kind of conservative. And you know what? If Farinaj is... where's Farinaj? I don't even know, but he's another guy that you feel comfortable around. Same with Danson. We'll see how comfortable this front group is. A lot of guys who, like you said, typically aren't up here, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Of note, Joseph Tyson and Michael Kaczynski both lose 2 laps from being involved in the incident. They're probably not going to get back on track, and James Ross with the EOL is just now leaving the road, so he's going to be way off trying to get some damage fixed. Other than that, 31 cars still scored on the lead lap at this point. So different restart procedure now this time through. The control car can start what he wants, and it is an early acceleration for John Ellenberg. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and everybody's going to be way spread out and run down to turn 1.
Not always the best move to do that, because there's a huge run that happens with a lot of guys that right after that. Look how spread out. There's going to be a lot of guys who have big runs on other drivers who don't necessarily have that big of a run. Like, I'm not going to get in the way right now of the 24. That was an insane start. I'm not sure I like that from any point of view.
Well,
works out for the moment.
All 3 of the team
Ellenberg's been able to maintain, but you do have to be weary to that point that Dylan made, Jonathan, the fact that, you know, the draft is going to bring everybody back on you. So this is normally one of those instances where you'd rather have somebody on your bumper than 5 car lengths behind you, because here comes the speed. Hess getting pushed by Cato.
I think they had to do that, though, to get Trudell and Lashinsky down there, because they were starting on opposite lines. They got to get hooked up. That was the whole plan riding in the back, and it's the plan right now.
I don't know if I trust all the differences in speed. Even if it's a couple miles per hour, that is all you need.
There's an onboard look and bump drafting so much they're inside of the camera on the bumper there in that lead group. We checked in with Bobby Krug before that last yellow happened. Remember, he was way at the back of that second group of cars. Now he is up in the mix, currently right now being scored in position 15, but still not wanting to get right into the thick of things. So he finds himself a little bit of ways back, and there's your onboard look with him, calm, cool, and collected at the moment, as the 3 of Deweese going to use that 3rd lane to drop back. He does not want to be in the side-by-side at the moment. Ironic, because he was the one making it 3 wide earlier in this one, and side-by-side for the lead. John Ellenberg, Garrett Hess on each other's door. That's what I'm talking about when I mean a race in which everybody's got a chance. These guys making the most of the opportunity and doing a good job controlling this front row.
And Garrett has impressed me so far. He's up in this lead group. He hasn't really been moving around too much or been too aggressive. He's just been up here doing what he can in the 0-0. Like, this is a car that hasn't really gotten many good results this season, and seeing it up here is probably a good confidence booster, I think, from his perspective.
There is a slow car in front of us.
I was wondering if that was maybe the 3 of Deweese, but just now over the radio, that lap car letting everybody know that he's going to go to the outside. So that was James Ross who caused the last yellow. There is some 3 wide, though, so I'm not sure this is going to work, and it is not. That is really going to hurt the 8 of Kyle Kamer. Kamer was really the only driver 3 wide at that moment. They were not going to fit, so he was forced to back out of it and tuck back down into the second line. That's going to put Kyle Kamer from P6 down to P11 just like that.
Well, someone wasn't listening to voice chat.
He told him he was staying high. At that point, you could only do so much. And I know that some drivers would prefer, the lapped cars to stay low. If some drivers would prefer them to stay high and whatnot, but Cameron was the only one up there. So luckily, he was able to just kind of back out of it and tuck back in line. Certainly would have been a lot more challenging if there was a whole line of cars. That could have gotten things quite ugly. So every time you have a bit of lap traffic here, it's one of those pucker or hold your breath moments. We get away with one there. Working lap 26. Ellenberg doing a good job. The thing I'm going to wonder with Ellenberg, with Trudell, and with Leschinski, right, is how close was that margin to be able to do this race without yellows? Because under yellow, you're only using about 50% of the fuel that you would under green. So if you're under yellow for 4 laps, as there's a dive to the bottom, Hess to the race lead, and Cato nearly followed him into the door of the 13 of Ellenberg. But if you're under yellow for 4 laps, you basically only use 2 laps of fuel. If they have to pit at some point, we're not expecting anybody else to really, unless it's for damage, because we've already heard the tires aren't an issue. They could put themselves way to the back foot. So I wonder if they're hoping that we get enough yellows in this race for them to save enough fuel to not need pit road at all. Look at Miller to the inside. A block by Cato. It doesn't happen. And a very aggressive move by that Valvoline Chevy.
Yeah, they saw us to the inside. I don't know if they just wanted to get in front of Garrett Hess, or there was just a little bit of urgency trying to get that bonus point and lead a lap. But now the Extreme Motorsports cars, 13, the 7, and the 03, are in a bit of a pickle here because they're not up front like they wanted to, and now they have 5 or 6 cars, all of whom are different teams, different drivers, kind of in their mix and in their little bubble. And maybe if they save enough fuel, they can make it to the end. But after seeing that move, we're probably going to have another caution at some point.
I'm just incredibly amazed there that wasn't a wreck. I mean, Miller was a very sharp dive to the bottom. It was very clear he was trying to go and undercut Cato, and Cato kind of expectedly followed him down and just about turned himself over the nose of the 27. The 27 had to use a little bit of the apron to avoid that. There is no passing below that yellow line, but if you are forced down there and you have to go down there for a small moment of time, that is allowed. Hopefully we don't need any tough decision calls on that as this race goes on. Well, you won't have to make the call. I will, so that's why I'm hoping
I know.
We don't have to deal with it.
I'm just hoping there's no nepotism involved. If you have to call something back, make an example out of me.
Well, if we'll throw the book at somebody, I promise we'll throw it at you just to prove that we don't pick favorites. On board with Ross Cato. So he leads this outside line right now. You can see to the bottom, that's the 00 of Hess, that all-blue car, pushy to Miller. Cato has a real good look here to go to the point. He's got the 22 of Price on the bumper. Let's see if he can make a run off of 2, and if he can, does he decide to go to the bottom, or will he hold the outside strong? The outside's got Kamer, it's got Valderrama, so they have the numbers, and here's the run down the Alabama gang back straightaway.
Yeah, they're all tucked up right behind each other, and it's just a perfect way of trying to do it. But I don't think he's clear, and I don't think he's going to commit. 27 coming back, and I think Stephen Price was running hot. He had to pull out there at the last second.
It just kind of all fell apart there out of nowhere. I thought that they were going to have it into 3. I wonder if Jerry Miller was getting a little bit hot, but now he's getting pushed because Kamer moved up to the outside with him. So Cato holds the bottom. Now the outside falls apart as Kamer needs to back out of it. So not a lot of uniformity or consistency with that outside line. Now here comes Hess up the road. He'll now become the lead car. Cato acting as a pusher. Valderrama checking up. And a little bit squirrely there was the 12.
Yeah, the problem that we have right now, when you pull up into these lines, it checks up everyone in the back part of this line. So Hess making that move as this line's reforming, probably not the best. And side drafting, oh no, 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 no! There he goes.
Off and into the grass. Valderrama's around. He'll tag the 7 and caution at lap 30. It all started with that check opening outside. You can see him shaking his head there. All started when Hess came up. It checked him up for a whole lap, but it just seemed like that outside line just couldn't get it together at all. And it almost looked like Valderrama lost it on his own there. Let's take a second look and see.
That was starting on the exit of turn 2, guys. There was way too much of a disparity between the drivers, not only in the front and in the back, but with drivers on the inside and outside, as Valderrama takes responsibility for that.
And we can see with the replay there that, I mean, there was a lot of things happening there, but it certainly looked like Valderrama tried to maybe check up and swerve a little bit to not get into the back of somebody, and once he upset that car, he really just couldn't reel it back in. So he'll claim responsibility for the caution flag at lap 30.
I'm happy it was then that I started to try and make a move to the outside, noticing the inside was checking up. And very thankful. I think it wasn't Valderrama that was spinning. I'm very happy that he didn't come back up, because that would have been really bad for a lot of drivers.
It's a little bit of a touch. Yeah, he got the 7 machine of Trudell, so it'll be interesting to see if Trudell's really hurt, and I think that was it. I know Eberhardt basically parked it on the apron, and now here's my answer, right? Question if some of these drivers are going to try to stretch it out to the end. Drivers down pit road, but a surprising large amount of cars down pit road as everybody's in. So they'll be that much more secure on fuel. Of course, give themselves an opportunity to have a little bit extra in case we need to go into overtime. 3 attempts on the board, as always. And at this track, more than anywhere else, definitely a possibility.
We might need to go.
Maybe they'd get 2, but I'm still seeing all the guys up front fuel only. Hess going to be first in. Hess will be the first one out.
You know, we might need to go into the pits. Well, at least I might have to one more time, because as I crossed the line, it showed 40, what was it? Like 43 laps of fuel left. So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be close. Depends on how many cautions there are. I don't know if I'm comfortable being up front, I'll be honest.
Why didn't you pit? You saw everyone go down.
Because I made a split-second decision and felt like...
He just told us he was good on fuel, so if he came down pit road, then we'd have to call him out. So
right. Oh, now pride. You know, as Count Dooku once said, Jonathan, double the pride, double the fall.
Yeah, but we've had issues both in the back and the front, so you're worse off either way, and you just saw the front all check up due to one man making a move for the lead.
Okay.
Well, now he's in it.
Yeah. I don't know.
So just don't be the one guy, and in
theory
you should be in an okay position. Just looking on pit road for damaged cars. Ross is still down there after causing 2 yellows ago. Kaczynski's down there. He was the one on his lid a little bit ago, and he's now actually fallen all the way to the rear because Joseph Tice has gone to the garage. Kaczynski's night basically done. So remember the early mention for Sam Nieto? He has passed 2 cars, courtesy of just staying 6 laps down. You know, get some points here and some points there. Obviously not the night that he was ultimately looking for, but I suppose it's better than nothing. So your top 4 are the drivers who stay out. Stephen Price, Dylan Coyle, Steve Durham, and Gary Weaver. Everybody pitted on that last yellow in that group of 4, so nothing too strange. The 3 drivers who had stayed out on the previous yellow all did decide to come down pit road. But I think it's an overall a net win for them, in all honesty, because, you know, they were 29th and whatnot, right? Ellenberg started 29th. He stays out when everybody else pits. He gets the track position. And then when he decides to come down pit road, he pits when everybody else pits. So it worked out great, I'd argue, for those 3. And they don't have to worry about the gamble of trying to stretch fuel because they're on the same pace and they got a bunch of free spots out of it.
This is the first time, guys, I've ever been up to 2nd in a race.
You talk about me jinxing it when I mentioned early in this race that it's a race that
fall
anybody
third.
could win, and then you just start dropping stuff like that.
I'll fall to third. I've been in third before. Well, that didn't end well for me.
So what's the strategy now that you're up front, right? We talked about the duality between running up front, running at the back, and kind of what the play is. Or now that you're up here, are you just going to say, whatever, let's do it? Or is the objective still to kind of sag back a little bit and get off of the front couple of rows?
Depends on how crazy the front is. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just stay up here, see what's happening, see if there's any aggression, which there will be. And if there is aggression, then I'm going to drop back. Not sure how to drop back comfortably and safely, though. I have not had to do that yet. I haven't had to drop back from the front.
Well, I think we've seen people either go to a third lane and drop back or go to the apron. So those are your options, I suppose. If it gets a little bit uncomfortable, it'll be interesting to see what Stephen Price does for this restart. Because, again, restart procedure is the same here as anywhere else. But at most tracks, it doesn't matter, right? Pace cars off it into pit road, and you get about a 5-second window. Here, where pit road is versus the start-finish line,
got a minute.
Is Stephen Price has got, feels like a minute. I mean, and most of the time they wait, like we saw in the initial start, where you're basically all the way through the trial to go, but Ellenberg went very early. Honestly, didn't hurt him like I thought it would. In fact, it may have actually spread out that lead group just a little bit compared to, you know, them kind of drafted right up on him. So it'll be interesting to see how this one shakes out. But Stephen Price going to be in control for this restart. Pace car going to dive down to the safety of pit road. Let's see what the number 22 machine of Stephen Price can do. We'll go RaceSpotTV fan immersion for this one. A big thanks to Logan Detweiler in the chat. This restart with 33 laps down and 42 laps to go from Talladega. Messy is how I would describe those opening few laps. A lot of checking up, a lot of moving side by side, and in the end, Daniel Eberhardt finds himself to the top of the board.
No surprise there.
He used those laps to try and see how he can make his way through the field, and he's done it. He's done it cleanly as well. And now he's got Price behind him and Kamer. Need two extreme teammates on the bottom. See a lot of different players now starting to come up through the field.
And one driver that was up front that is no longer up there is Dylan Coyle. You're 4.4 seconds back in 25th. So tell us what happened.
Didn't like the start. Durham was flying down low. Durham was actually getting testy with some people on the radio. Apparently brake jacked at the start, so don't know what happened there. Didn't like it, so I came back here, and not sure I love it either, but it's getting a little more hectic. I think people are starting to see the checkered flag is sort of within sight, but I think there's going to be another flag before that. Not the white.
Still a long 34 laps to go that time by. There's Shade making a move from the bottom into the outside. He'll get a push from Miller. Has a chance to go to the race lead in turn 3. And he will clear and drop down to the bottom. So a well-executed move by that Splash and Go Graphics Toyota Supra down on the inside of the racetrack as he goes to the very top of the board. Eberhardt on the bumper now. Does he try to repay the favor? For all of the shuffling, for all of the different faces, we have Ellenberg, who's plus 25, Leschinski, who's plus 25. But other than that, there's a lot of the guys that led early that are back towards the front.
Yeah, it's just a matter of strategy. I think some guys want to ride at the rear, and some guys want to come out to the field. Eberhardt back and already has decided, I'm going to come up front and stay up front. And the two Extreme Motorsports cars, the 13 and the 03, have decided they now want to stay up front, despite losing, unfortunately, 2 of their team members in the previous 2 cautions.
Just listening into some of the driver chatter, it feels like most of the field is in agreement that they want to take it easy, and outside of this bubble up front, we are way spread out. Not as spread out as we were at the start of this race when you had, half the field some 8 seconds back, but this lead group is kind of stretched to 18th, if you want to extend that maybe even to 23rd or so about 4 seconds splitting up your top 20 cars. That's a lot by Talladega standards, but they're packed in tight at the front. Eberhardt, who made the move back to the outside, does clear for the race lead, but how long will it last? Because Miller pushed by Hess, going to try to take it right back.
And you mentioned how wide this track is. There was almost a moment there where Eberhardt could have got shuffled down the middle and sucked all the way to the end of the lines. And that would have probably been disastrous for the 90. It looks like he wants to remain up here. Oh, that was close, I think, for everyone involved. 0-0 got into the wall.
Touched it. They scattered a little bit, but it'll be okay. That was Hess just giving it a little bit too much, pushy to Miller, but it worked. It pushed Miller to the race lead, but it has basically obliterated the outside. That checkup, that whole bottom lane has fallen apart, and now a set of teammates trying to get hooked up. John Ellenberg, Marius Leschinski, but here comes the Donnie of Eberhardt. He tries to steal the thunder, can't do it. He'll go to the top and watch that 13 and 03 work together.
There's a little bit of a contact right there. The 90 came up and just wasn't fully clear. The 13, now the 0-0 goes up. They're moving and jostling around, and that's fine, all fine and dandy right now when there's only 10 cars fighting, but when everyone else decides it's go time, they might want to be a bit more careful.
Well, they've obviously done the objective, and that is to find your teammate, right? It's a point that we haven't touched on too much, but I know that Dylan was talking about it earlier, where he had seen some of those teammates trying to group up towards the rear of the field, and a bit of creative strategy involved in this decision for Ellenberg and Leschinski to get to the front after neither of these cars opted to qualify. But they obviously had, their focus set on staying together. You don't really see any other big groups of cars, teammates, sets of 2 or 3 or 4 up front. So it doesn't mean that 2 teammates are going to work better than 2 other cars, but certainly if you could have a plan, a lot of those moments of miscommunication tonight that we've seen won't happen, and that was executed perfectly. And those cars now go to first and second with Ellenberg now top of the scoring pylon.
Again, I think their planning, though, was kind of out the window, because remember, the Extreme Motorsports cars, they had 4 cars in that team. They have Trudell that was tagged in that last caution. They had Kaczynski in the 30, who was up and over on his lid in the first caution. So I think the plan has changed for this team, and there were other teammates trying to work together. Nieto and Larayo were trying to work together until Nieto's internet went out. So I think some of the teammates are trying to work together, but it's just hard to find your way around it through all the chaos and all the shuffling.
Well, you can see 3 wide now because Hess left on his own in the middle, going to get passed by Eberhardt, who was pushed by Kamer. Kamer probably going to find a spot, but maybe not enough room for Tom Morano. No, neither of them. Kamer can't squeeze into that hole. Hess going to fill the void, and Kamer going to have to reset and try again. I mean, there's a lot of that 3 wide kind of comes out of nowhere, and then we're back to 2 wide, 3 wide, spread it out, dice it all over the place. I mean, it is really seemingly kind of discombobulated and uncoordinated for the time being up front as we work it out. Lap number 48 of 75, so less than 30 laps to go from Talladega. Where are your championship drivers? It's a point that we touched on earlier. Andrew Friedrich scored 19th, Matt Danson in 17th, so they have changed positions. Danson ahead of Friedrich. Again, Danson a 4-point championship lead. That's a duo that we need to keep our eyes on.
But just remember, it's still Talladega. Anything can happen as Kamer again goes to the outside. I think what he's trying to do is trying to get to Eberhardt, his teammate, but Garrett Hess wants nothing to do with that. So now Kalis has come in to try and push the 8-car around on the outside.
I could use a caution.
You said it. I didn't say it.
Not for me, though. Please.
As long as it's not you, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, so you're in the group now that's 10 seconds behind. You, Weaver, both of the Maras, and then even further back, it's really just damaged cars, Valderrama, Mosier, Durham, and Ross and whatnot. But yeah, I do think 10 seconds back is a little bit far. Oh, there's a bubble up front, though. The 27 of Miller, 3 wide. No caution. We stay green.
What a save.
It was contact on the front row. Liam Sheen got hooked by Eberhardt down into Miller. That 27 was sideways at about 180 miles an hour, and somehow they didn't wreck.
Yep, that's why I let off the gas and lost a second to everybody that I was drafting with.
So you listed it into us as an advantage, and it worked against you because those guys had no idea what was happening.
I'm already back into this pack though, and I'm not enjoying this right now. I thought I found salvation.
Do you remember a couple years ago, Kyle Busch sparking and spinning in
At
the
night,
Bud shootout out of turn 4? That's what that reminded me of.
Which time?
That's true. He's done it a couple of times.
He saved it both times. The 27 saved it.
One of the times he saved it, but Jeff Gordon ended up on his lid. Nobody on their lid this time because we stay green. And now those teammates again going to go to the very outside, but that pesky 22 of Price hole in the middle didn't leave enough room for Leschinski to get through, and now both he and Ellenberg going to have to reset. They'll probably duck down to the bottom. Yes, they will, and they'll reassume position in the middle lane just to get a bit of draft, and they'll go out again. So they're very clearly intent on not bringing a third car into that group. They want it to be them versus the world, but I mean, all Price has to do is maintain the middle here, and it's going to be awfully difficult for those guys to clear him up top. Maybe they'll have a chance this time to one, and now Price kind of waves the white flag, and he'll tuck down in line to the bottom, and that duo of the Extreme Performance Motorsports group can come down. But here comes now Tom Morano. He was third in line on the bottom. He'll go to lead the outside, and pushed by Ellenberg, looking to go to the race lead.
I think people have their dance partners, their drafting partners, and right now the 13 of no 3 have made it clear that 22 is not one of them. And, you just got to find the right people to work with.
You can see the spread out field there. There's the single filers, as I'll call them, that 4 or 5 right there just behind the 3 wide battle for the lead. That's everybody from Kyle Kamer on through Jaron Winemaster. So Kamer, Cato, Silver, Miller, Kalis, and Winemaster on the doorstep, but at least not intent on getting into the fun too much. But I still think at a good distance, within striking distance, to get back and into the picture. There's going to be a lapped car up high and into the wall. That's the 14th James Ross trying to go high. There's another lapped car to the bottom, so your leaders first low, now high, trying to sneak through some lapped traffic. Thankfully, they were only 2 wide, so I think they're going to be okay, and Steve Durham going to get swallowed up by this lead pack.
Yeah, those 2 cars were drafting together, Durham and Ross. A little curious why that did not work out better, to why both of them did not go to the same side, but nevertheless, we stay green, and again, the 00 has made some questionable moves, but still has impressed me so far. He's always been out front, and he's been really good in most of these drafting lines.
So, I got my fuel calculation wildly off. I have 10 laps of fuel left.
That is...
Yeah, I was going to say I didn't believe you when you said you could almost go to the end of the race.
Sorry, I wasn't focused on strategy.
Well, that's why I was like, when those drivers stayed out, right? I mean, how off were they, right? Do they need 3, 4, 5 yellows to make up the difference? Of course, given the pit strategy, you've been out there for 33 laps. You said you're off by about 10?
Yep. Let's check. The fuel, 9.6.
And you pitted about 12 laps later than everybody else who came down to pit on the last pit stop. So in theory, everybody who pitted last yellow is good, meaning that you, Price, and I think Gary Weaver, along with Steve Durham, going to be the drivers needing a yellow. Not just hoping for one, but you guys basically need one.
I need one in the next 9 laps, or I'm going a lap down.
Well, here you go.
Oh, and the leaders!
Oh, do I get it?
The 77 machine saw cars into the inside wall. And
Did I really not get it?
This will be a caution due to the number of cars involved.
Yes.
That was an impressive save by the 03 and the 00. To not wreck those machines. I think what's going to happen here, he just rubs his teammate the wrong way. They both have to check up, and Miller just gets in the quarter panel. That's all it takes.
That could have happened several times when,
should I thank you?
Hess was there and Price was there. They wanted to clear, and they were not clear on Miller. Turned right across his nose, and the 77 went through the grass, but was relatively okay. Honestly, none of them smacked the inside wall. There was no yellow immediately from the sim, but if there's an accident involving 3 or more cars, race control will throw it, and you can see 1, 2, 3 there. They're all off and in the grass, and that brings out the yellow. I thought they were going nose first into that pit wall because it is not far away, so that's a great piece of driving by all of them to avoid that being worse.
And there's nothing just Garrett Hess could do in that moment. Like, he had 2 cars come down on him, and again, thankfully they were drifting the right way. They didn't get into that wall, so their races will all continue and hopefully get together. But that's another caution. They're 3 for 3 right now for the Extreme Sim Sport group, and now they're broken up. Ellenberg is by himself, no teammate in sight.
So that is tough. They're going to be on their own for this one, and
I'm a big fan of that 3-car rule.
Yeah, I know it helps you out in this case because we were just talking about the fact that you needed a yellow. Now you'll get one. The question is, are you going to be the only, you and the other drivers on the same pit strategy, going to be the only drivers to come in? I expect more cars to pit because if you were off by 10, that means that all the drivers were good. Were basically only good by a lap or 2. That would not be sufficient for multiple attempts at overtime, and here they come. Tom Morano down. Looks like all of your lead cars are down pit road to get fuel to go the distance. The only car I saw stay out was Durham from a lap down looking for a wave around. So everybody in wholesale service, likely just for fuel.
Not me. I'm going to take tires as well. I'm already far
Morano
back.
as well. He's going to go right side tires. I see a lot of drivers fuel only, but Tom Morano from the front actually going to give up the track position and go for 4 tires.
Yeah, I think he's one of them that hasn't taken tires the entire time, and neither has Garrett Hess, and he's going to want some, and same with Fashinsky for spinning, but Now this is going to jumble up the field a lot. I'm already seeing a lot of those front runners towards the rear. I saw Kamer come out like 15th maybe.
Oh, Eberhardt's still in.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers spending extra time. There's Eberhardt in the #1 pit stall. Hess, I think, is also down there, spending a lot of extra time on pit road as well. And with everybody having pitted, Stephen Price going to be the lead car off of pit road and will take over the control position in this race. We've talked about Price tonight, you know, and the fact that he's been up front and in the mix all evening. Does have a top 10 this year, has only made limited starts, starting 5 of the 8 thus far. Looking for, of course, a first win in this RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series, and in a very good position to do so now.
Yeah, the only problem he has is he's not making many dance partners out there. It seemed like the Extreme Motorsports did not want to work with him, and he's been one of the more aggressive people in the draft, which that's what you got to do to get up front, right, and win a race. You got to be aggressive in the draft, so maybe this 22 has what he has, but
I'd expect to see a lot more aggression now. Sorry for cutting you off.
The biggest question mark I have is going to be on the 25 of Brian Chambliss. We haven't seen him on camera, I don't think, at all in this race. It is now in P2. We've seen Jeremy Miller. We've seen Ellenberg lately. We saw Winemaster at the beginning. I don't know what that 25 can do, and Matt Danson's also 6. What can he do?
Big for Danson. Remember, he was at one point probably one of the back 5 cars in the field, at the back of a pack that was 8 seconds behind. I mean, that was a gamble. If this race didn't have yellows, which was always the statistical likelihood, but even though, you know, could have been in a position where hanging back could have hurt him, but instead stayed back, stayed out of incidents, and he was able to pass Friedage on that last run, but has certainly gained a lot more track position this time through. Danson only 6 seconds on in the stall to go up to position number 6. Friedage twice as long down on pit road, as he basically got full service, 4 tires, fuel to the end. So different strategies. Friedage down in 15th, Danson up in 5th, and a lot on the line in the championship, coming to a restart that'll have 17 laps to go.
The fact that Friedage is back here means that there's going to be a lot more aggression from the championship contender. So he's put himself in a bit of an uncomfortable situation.
I think this whole race is uncomfortable. Yeah. I think if Friedage and Danson could, they would just opt to pass and take a drop week for Talladega. But of course, all 10 weeks of this IWRAPS Winter Series count towards this points championship. So there are no freebies or easy weeks, and especially for those championship drivers tonight, a big concern. One that they're worried about. Not many places you'll go to and Danson and Friedage are going to be tenths apart like they are on track right now, right? These are drivers who are very even in speed, will be trading, have been trading back and forth all season for race wins, for top 5s, and for the championship, you know, to that matter. But this is the big one, coming to 17 laps to go, which, by the way, still with 30 cars. I know I caught myself saying it unintentionally. There are still 30 cars on the lead lap. We have not had a big one thus far in this race. So 17 laps to go. It's going to be Stephen Price and Brian Chambliss on the front row. Miller, Ellenberg, row 2. Winemaster and Danson, row 3. Philip Lariah, row 4. Cato Silver, row 5. Full running order, top of your screen. Price isn't going to go early this time. He will take his time through the tri-oval. Green flag flies to the back, underway. Pretty even inside and out.
I was waiting for that 22 to go, and he just never did. And that may help him because now this bottom line's already formed up, but that may also hurt him because now the top line's somewhat formed up. It's a big gap from Danson to Lariah.
The inside now starts to pull its advantage. That bottom's always going to be better opening lap. Ellenberg bails. He'll go to the bottom. Diagonal. Phillip coming up to the outside. The 27 to Jeremy Miller going to join him on the outside as well. So they get together. There's a slam draft into 3. At a 2, it looked like the outside was dead. Now in 3 and 4, the outside with the lead.
Yeah, but the advantage for Stephen Price, though, he's got the 48 behind him. And I mentioned it earlier, that 48, I think, is the best pusher in the field. But we have not seen what the 94 can do. He's been riding in the back. Neither Danson, neither Belier or Silver, who are now in this picture, have been really up here yet, so we don't know what these guys are capable of.
Even saving it, Danson thinks about the middle. Thought Chambliss was going to block, so he waits, and they both checked up, so that'll slow the outside down, but Danson does get the bottom. He forces Chambliss out a one-way ticket to the back of the pack in a third lane, unless he could get some drafting help. So Phillip now, pushed by Danson, the heavy hitters, cycling their way back to the front of the field. You mentioned Silver into the mix now. DeWeese back up and into the conversation. Some drivers that were running up here earlier in this one. But does Danson focus on pushing Phillip to the lead, or is he okay with riding right now second in line on the outside? Miller still leading from the bottom.
Really depends on how aggressive side drafting they get. Right on that bottom line's been pretty well behaved and not really side drafting, which is why we've seen the top line get strong. But once people start swerving like the 22 does right there, it can cause a little bit of hair raising and calamity.
Yeah, it was close. That's always my concern. The later in this race it gets, that outside's going to pinch more and more and more. You can see on the back straightaway here, that outside line is above that first set of white hash marks. They're going to be above it in the 3, see the space, but then you get deeper, see how they walk it down the hill, they get a little bit more brave, they dip the left side tires down, and you try to get a bit of that side draft, and that's when any movement up from a car in the bottom can cause big issues. But the outside, impressively, still holding, but a car length and a half of an advantage right now.
Yeah, those 4 up top were working together single file earlier on in this race, so I think they're pretty familiar with how they're running and pretty familiar with how they want to be pushed and how they want to be raced around. So I think that top line's well organized. And the concern, I think, for them is just Stephen Price keeps coming up trying to side draft, and that's what he has to do, really, to keep him and the 27 out front.
But the inside, as I mentioned, is kind of the line that you sit in. You don't really make moves there, so you do need to be aggressive if you're Price. Even if you're wide bastard third in that row, keep up on your bump draft because the outside is going to be better in most cases, and you're going to get stuck down there very easily. So you need to work just as hard, if not harder, as the cars to your outside if you want to stay into the mix. Here's an onboard look with Gary Weaver, 27th on track right now. He's at the back of this massive side-by-side pack. Remember how not that long ago your top 20 were way spread out? It's on 4-6 seconds right now. Gary Weaver in 27th, 1.4 off for the race lead. And look at all those cars up the road, most of which side-by-side.
See that white car right there? That is Andrew Freenot. I think he's kind of just waiting it out. He knows there could be trouble, which might be for the best for him because Danson's trying to get up toward the front. If something happens up front, 2 of the 3 cautions have happened at the front of the field. He doesn't want to get involved.
Freenot also started behind but has lost ground since the restart. Freenot down in 22nd. There's a check up at the outside by Garrett Hess. That sends a couple of cars scattering. He'll go to a third lane. All of that happening right in front of your championship hopeful in Freenot. But we stay green. 12 laps to go now that time by. And Phillips starting to get a nose out in front. He led last time.
And now temperature not going to be much of an issue anymore. We're getting closer to the end of the race, so start seeing red. People might start ignoring it, so it might get more aggressive pushing as Danson gets right to the back of that 94. He's trying to get as much of a push as he can going into turn 3.
Just waiting for somebody to make a move. So far, no changes on the front couple of rows here in some half a dozen laps. Still Miller on the bottom. Still Phillip on the outside. Look at all that room begging to be used on the outside if a third lane comes into play. We've seen more 3 wide in the opening 10 than in the last 10. So it seems like these drivers almost aware that the consequences are higher now. It seems like you'd want to go make a move, yes, but if you make a move and fail, you go all the way to the back. And there it is. Phillip to the bottom. New race leader for the 94. And now Danson, I think, where he wanted to be all along, leading the outside, short-lived. Miller pulls up in front of him.
Well, that's going to check up that outside line, and there is a third line forming up there. It looks like Shameless and Hess are trying to get Andrew Freenage and Tom Moreno to form an outside line, but it's just not going anywhere at the moment.
And now 3 wide back in traffic because Danson thought about a third lane but did opt to cut Miller a break there, not run him over, check back up, and now there's that third lane. Moreno leads it. He's pushed by the 90 of Eberhardt. You got Chambliss in the mix as well. DeWeese wants the party. Now they're going to go 4 wide as Moreno blinks for a moment, pulls up and gives the spot to Eberhardt. 3 wide. Racing for the win at Talladega. That third lane's about 5 rows back, though, from the front.
But the problem is that's Daniel Eberhardt, who's already shown he's been able to make his way through the field. And Braxton DeWeese was aggressive early. And you have other players at the end of that, too. You do have Garrett Hess. You do have Andrew Freenage. You got white cars all of a sudden in the middle of the drafting line. It wasn't there a few seconds ago.
Oh, and DeWeese comes down on Eberhardt. Another near touch avoided there. Freenage, Coyle, followed by the 77 Sheen, the 42 of Moreno. Those right now, the 6 drivers up top. Freenage wants to get to the middle, can't do it. That spot shot. 3 wide up front. It's Miller to the inside on Price. Bobby Krug is in the thick of things as well as Miller put the Jeek on the 22 of Price, crossed him over. He now leads on the middle.
I was watching basketball before this, and that was a nice little basketball move that the 27 put on the 22. I think he was trying to get up to the top, and Price definitely overshot it. But now, Angel Phillip is on the bottom with Aaron Weinmaster. And Weinmaster, again, has been the best pusher, I think, and he's really, really consistent, really smooth. But Price now has the advantage of DeWeese and Eberhardt in this outside lane.
Krug not liking what he's seen. We were just on board with him, but he is no longer where he was. He has dropped to the apron and dropped the back. We are 3 wide, some 6 rows deep all the way to the rear of the field here. It's still Phillip on the bottom, Miller the middle, Price to the very outside. The advantage to the 27 in the middle with 8 laps to go from Talladega. Is this sustainable? Miller now takes the lead. He'll come down in front of the 94.
This is the exact ball game Anthony wants to be. He doesn't want to be with 2 conflicting lines on the outside.
And now Danson finally leading a lane. Every other time where the car in front of him dove down, somebody pulled in front. It's his at the moment, unless up top the 22 of Price has something to say about it. The outside's going to check up as they got a little bit out of order. DeWeese almost got into the quarter panel of Price. They both lifted. It was the right call because they saved it. However, now the inside and the middle pull another 2-car length advantage. Matt Danson sitting good. Freenage desperately trying to catch up to him, but Freenage down in 16th on that third lane. 4th in line. There's that all-white 88 car.
Yeah, it all started with Price. I think he wanted to move down in front of Danson, but knew he wasn't clear. He checked up, and then there was nowhere for DeWeese to go. And now Weinmaster, that's a bit of a aggressive one there on the 05. As they go around Jeremy Miller. And now this bottom line is all but disintegrated. It looks like the middle and the high line are the strongest.
A lot of moving, but you saw it there. Weinmaster followed Phillip up to the middle. They were able to get back around to Miller, but now Weinmaster holds in the middle. He'll lead that middle spot in the 48. So Phillip again leading the bottom. Weinmaster leads the middle. Price still trying to spearhead the effort for a 3-wide front row. Price leading with 6 laps to go. Ross Cato looks a lot more calm than I would be. He's 3rd in line on the bottom.
I think the bottom is probably the calmest line you can be in at the moment. I don't think that middle line's any calm. I think Matt Danson might be in a bit of trouble. Just he's surrounded by cars. He has nowhere to go if something happens in front. As Phillip pulls in front of that 48, that's going to check everyone up.
It's a strategic play. The bottom. Oh, there's going to be a touch and a spin. Coyle gets turned by Kamer. They wreck into turn number 3. And a caution at lap number 70 seems certain to push this race into overtime. They made it work for so long until it fell apart. Let's watch right there. There's a touch. Looks like maybe it was Washington turning Kamer that set that off.
That's ridiculous. I'm upset again. Another time.
Look how close Farinaj was to that. Silver, Leszczynski just avoided. There's the contact with Dylan Coyle into the inside wall, and everybody else that gets involved in that incident. Damage to the likes of Chambliss. Liam Sheen might have got a piece. Dylan obviously damaged. Eric Stanford, Kamer, and more. And you know, maybe you get away with going 3 wide like that, Jonathan, for 2-3 laps, but they were trying to do it for 15, and honestly, I think a lot more minor of a wreck than that thing could have been, as that was a big, ugly pack. It was great to watch, but I was just holding my breath waiting on it.
Yep. Ask how my left front's doing. My God. I had a run up in the top line.
It was just, I think that 03 getting out of the throttle.
03 was having way too many issues the entire time. Destroyed a run we had at the top line. Yes, I'm calling him out right here. Just way too hectic. Ridiculous.
And the yellow
just
came.
Someone got out of shape. Just got on the back of someone going into a corner. Like it's kind of the typical. We're going into turn 3. That's kind of what happened. Someone got out of shape. Washington did not lift. Lifted the rear end and spun him around, and there was nothing a lot of you guys can do.
Yeah, the first car lifts, it's okay. Second car lifts a little bit later. Third car a little bit later. And eventually that checkup just doesn't translate like a game of telephone. X amount of rows back in line. And it checked up to the point where Washington got into the back of Kamer. He went up high, came back down, collected more cars. And that is the yellow at lap number 70. Looks like it'll be the second straight yellow in this race where it's not claimed to go to a post-race review. Nobody claimed responsibility for the lap 54 incident. And they'll make race control sweat by having to review that one post-race and this one on lap 70. But the point I was going to make is that yellow comes at 50. It almost certainly going to push us to overtime. There's a chance we could get maybe a 2-lap-to-go shootout in regulation, basically a de facto first of 4 opportunities at a green-white checkered if necessary. And this is where that decision by everybody to come down pit road about 15 laps ago to top off when they were good to the scheduled distance, but not past lap number 75. This is where that decision looking real smart.
Yeah, now everyone's just got to get in that mental mindset of it's just that last shootout. There's going to be 2 lines forming. When does Agnew Phillip go? Because now all of these lines, everyone's kind of shaken up. Not everyone's together. So it really is going to play into different hands. We saw Matt Danson towards the front. He's in 7th. We saw Freenaj was close to that incident. I believe he's somewhere still in the top 15.
He was like a half a car length away from being the car that got hooked. So he was pretty fortunate.
Yeah, he's actually moved up to 11th out of that. So that's a lucky break for Freenaj, but he's not going to be on the bottom where he wasn't running that entire run. He was towards the high side, and Danson was in the middle, also going to be on the bottom. So now this is where I guess you have to make new friends last minute, you know? You know, your date left you. You got to make a last-minute date arrangement to try and get to the end.
Yeah, you have a plan. You find a drafting partner, you find your teammates, and honestly, even if you had your teammate, you get agreed by checkered finish. I don't really think you care the number, the manufacturer, the team of the car in front or behind you. You're just hoping it's somebody to draft with, and yeah, it kind of falls down to every man for himself. Agnew Phillip made a very smart decision, though. Just a handful of laps before that yellow was leading this race at the bottom, but decided to pull up to the middle because he saw Miller was going to get a run there, and that's why the 94 is the control car for this race. Granted, I don't know if you really want to be the control car. I don't think any position's safe, but you're going to have a big target on your back for a restart. Let's see. Will this thing get a restart opportunity in regulation? 3 laps to go. The lights on the pace car are out. So we will get an opportunity to finish in scheduled distance. It'll be a 2-lap-to-go restart, a green-white checkered, but it will not count as an overtime attempt So that is a big thing to keep in mind. And now that we're this late, I should also mention that the new series rule that if there are a yellow flag within 1 lap of a previous restart will be in effect for any further restarts. So if we have to go to overtime, those are, I think, guaranteed to be single file restarts because they would have to happen within a lap. So that's the situation up front.
I can hit 156 in 4th gear. That's 20 slower than qualifying. I am so livid.
One more chance next week to go for the top 10.
Well, it keeps happening. Somehow I keep getting punted out of the way somehow and losing a potential top 10. Unreal.
So Phillip and Price on the front row, Weidemaster at Miller row 2, Deweese Cato row 3, Danson and Eberhardt row 4, Lariah and Ellenberg 9 and 10. Notably, again, Andrew Freenage 9th is 4 spots behind Matt Danson in the running order. He is 4 points behind Matt Danson in the points. Coming into this evening could be big in the championship with 1 race left, how these two navigate the end of this race. So will we get it done here? Jonathan, I'll put you on the spot. What are we looking for? What do you think is going to happen in our maybe our first attempt at a green white checkered?
Well, first, you said it first attempt. Like, we were 3 wide for so long, it's going to be really, really touch and go. But if we do make it to that white flag, I think we're going to be good to the end. The problem is you just have so many different dance partners mixed up. You have Freenage and Danson, who have really not been drafting with a lot of these guys around them. So it's going to be really touch and go as Price wants to go.
Pace car off. This could be it. Agnell Phillips, Stephen Price, side by side, but all 30 cars on the lead lap. An opportunity to steal the win here from Talladega, and the IWRAPS 199. Waiting on the 94. Price trying to guess when he'll go. Phillip going to go all the way to the end. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go.
Did the 22 just beat the 94 to the line?
He had him by 2 1/1000s, but the 94 back in front, so I think they are good by restart procedures. I saw the 13 machine of Ellenberg look to the outside, think about a 3rd lane. He talks back, and now here's the speed up top.
Yeah, like that outside line from that very, very outside. It took a while during that last run. They don't have the luxury of a while right now. You got to go.
He tried to come down, but Agnell Phillip was not going to lift, and he nearly hooked Price before Price realized, oh, now the 22 gets turned. Price is into the wall. Phillips into the wall, but it's only 2 cars, so we are still green at the front of the field. Miller, Eberhardt, white flag, 1 lap to go.
Brings it outside into it now. Everyone can be a factor. Everyone can win this race.
Here comes Freenage, 4th in line in the middle. Danson, 3rd in line on the bottom. Your championship contenders right in the mix for the race win at Talladega. Eberhardt pushed by Deweese. Miller pushed by Weidemaster to turn 3.
When do you make a move? When do you make a move if you're Braxton Deweese? You're not going to be pushing that 90 all the way to the end, are you?
So far, he's still on him, but he's not lifted out. He'll get out of line. Ellenberg to the bottom. The outside is going to fall apart. Miller's got the advantage. Jaron Weidemaster, P2, but he can't break free. Danson and Eberhardt touch, and it's Jeremy Miller winning at Dega as they wreck across the line.
Well, I asked you to look at this right at the end there because I don't know how they finished at the rear, but what a job from the 27 machine.
And Jeremy Miller gets his 2nd top 5 of the season. He'll get his first win. Weidemaster was doing everything he could to get a look, but he just couldn't clear the 90 of Eberhardt on the outside. Finally got a little bit of a look, but it was too late. He couldn't get through, and that was push it all the way through. Miller just now saying over the radio to Jaron Weidemaster that he didn't lift for a long time. Thanking the 48 for the push there, and they all started spinning behind. Notables, Danson 3rd, Freenage 7th. Could see Danson's lead grow into a Las Vegas finale.
And that was, I think, big for Danson. Him and Eberhard were beating and banging coming into the line. But, I mean, again, kudos to the top two. Miller was up front, really making good, decisive moves. Winemaster, I said it, he was the best pusher in the field. And unfortunately, when you're the best pusher in the field, it doesn't exactly make you the best car up front.
And in the case of Jeremy Miller, as he celebrates on the front straightaway in his 54th career RealSimRacing start, he gets his first career RSR race win. It also becomes the 100th different official race winner in RSR history as he celebrates on the front straightaway. And he is looking, I think, to fly out of here in celebration. What an end for Jeremy Miller. Here's the second look at how it all happened. Of course, it's going to start with contact between the 22 and the 94. This is coming to the white flag. Miller pushing right there, just a touch. Spins those cars off to the bottom, but it was only 2 cars, so there is no admin yellow because iRacing didn't throw the caution. That's what took those 2 out of it and left everybody else in it for the white flag dash.
And this was the fight to the line. And Steve Durham gets sideways, and I think someone behind as well as Danson and Eberhard are here. Yeah, there it is. Right there, I think they hit again, and I think a big part of that midfield crashes, but at least they all got to the line, so they keep most of their positions.
I don't think the spin's going to change much. It was barely a third for Danson. That margin over Eberhard, 1/1000th of a second between third and fourth. Could you imagine if this championship between Danson and Freenage is decided by a single point, because Danson gets a huge point in that battle there, 1.24 seconds off of the race lead compared to 1.25. Let's take a look, though, at your IWRAPS full race results. There's the margins. Miller gets it by 0.05 of a second over Winemaster second and Danson third. We'll talk with all of them in just a moment. Eberhard, Ellenberg through the top 5. With Michael Araya in 6th, Andrew Freenage in 7th, Nick Silver, Marius Leschinski, and David Washington, the top 10.
Froscato ends up finishing in P11. Braxton DeWeese barely getting down to P12. Tom Moreno, a good drive for the 42 in P13. Bobby Krug wanted no part of that 3-wide action before the last restart, comes home 14th. Kyra Trudell involved in the second caution, finishes 15th. Steve Durham had a bit of an up and down day, comes home 16th. Sean Kalis in 17th. Brian Chambliss in the 25 and 18th. Garrett Hess was up front for a lot of that early part of the day, but doesn't get a good result in P19. And Liam Machine all the way in P20 for the 77.
And continued on through 21st to Gary Weaver, Matt Mara, Trevin Valderrama, Michael Mosier, and Nick Amara, your top 25. You've also got Kyle Kamer, Eric Stanford, Dylan Coyle, Stephen Price, and Agnell Phillip through 30th.
James Ross in the 14 caused a little bit of an accident on his own, finished 24 laps down. Sam Nieto had a bit of connection issues early on and chose to retire the car. Michael Kaczynski went upside down after contact from Joseph Tyson, Sam Ross for the first caution. Joe Berge was allowed to line up but didn't take the green flag. That rounds out your field of 35.
And a look top to bottom at your IWRAPS full race results. As always, IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Go to iWraps.shop for more information. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside when we come back post-race from Talladega. We'll talk with your top finishers and give you a look at the points headed into next week's season finale at Las Vegas. You're watching RaceSpot's continuing coverage of the RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race. so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And back live for the virtual Talladega Superspeedway, where RaceSpotTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series is powered by IWRAPS. Through the website, you can go and select a pre-designed paint scheme, purchase and customize your colors, sponsors, and more. As IWRAPS is changing the game, you can use code RSR20 to receive 20% off your first order. That's at iWraps.shop. Have that you're with us still on RaceSpotTV. Evan Pasoko, Jonathan Burke, with our in-race reporter Dylan Boyle and our producer Hugo Luis. Let's go trackside and talk with your race winner tonight. It is the driver of the number 27 machine, Jeremy Miller, on top of the IWRAPS 199. Jeremy, congratulations on the win. You were up in the mix for much of this race, but just kind of walk us through maybe that last 10 laps or so when it was 3 wide and hold your breath. They wrecked behind and then having to go through a 2-lap shootout.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. I was just racing how I always race at these plate tracks. There's a running joke on this service. I'm known as a plate goat in quite a few places. I'm always up front here in Daytona typically, and today I was able to be fortunate enough to get the win done. There was 2 incidents off my nose that are both going to be questioned, and the one with 2 to go is just I was trying to push him and he moved up and I didn't lift. But one earlier in the race, I haven't watched it, so I'm not gonna comment and get myself in any deeper on that one. But it was a great race, and just controlling the lines. Every time that top gets cleared, I usually try to push that guy in the lead clear and just get right back to that top lane. 'Cause if you're in the middle of the pack, you're gonna be in the wreck. I'd rather be in the front or in the back, and I try to stay in the front because that's where you're gonna win the race from.
Coming to the end there, obviously knowing that I think that Jaron was going to want to make a move on you. I mean, when did you know that you had this thing? Was it not till the very last second?
So I told Brian coming out of turn 4 because I saw Eberhardt have a little wiggle. They got a little loose up there, and I told my teammate Brian out of 4 that I won. And he said, "Really?" I said, "I haven't crossed the line yet, but I know how these things work. I got it." The only thing that was going to stop me was if I got dumped, but it didn't happen.
It held true. The final margin of victory, 48 1/1000ths of a second. I believe, if I'm reading my stats correctly, to be the first race win for you, I believe, in start number 54 in RSR competition. And if I'm looking at the right numbers as well, that makes you the 100th different winner of an RSR broadcast in series history amongst the Winter Series and the Cup Series and all the other main series. So quite a way to do it, but maybe in a bit of a smaller context, just from your perspective, to get the race win, what does it mean for you?
It means a lot. I mean, just had a rough on the service recently. I've had some bad luck going my way. It feels good to win always, but just really means a lot today. That's a really cool stat on the 100th winner. I like that. I almost won one at Michigan last season. That one, so maybe I'm a little happy I didn't win that one now. But yeah, just I was here a couple years ago and popped back in. We're going to be running this Cup season full time, so hopefully we'll go get some more.
And I'll use that as a plug because there are very limited spots left on the Cup Series grid, and public registration opens tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific at RealSimRacing.org. But Jeremy, we'll let you get out of here and celebrate this one. Before we do, the sponsors and shout-outs and all those folks who makes it happen for you.
I gotta thank all my guys at HER. Only Brian was here tonight, and I think only he's gonna be there for the Cup Series. We're trying to get our good friend Skylar to come back. Not gonna do it, I don't think. But I think Connor Horn, he helps me work on the sim a lot. He's an extremely talented race car driver. I fully believe you're gonna see him in Coke in a couple years from now. And having him as my friend and teaching me everything that he can teach me. It's a huge help to have somebody like that helping you on the service. So I got to thank those guys.
I'll tell you what, we appreciate you racing with us on Monday nights and looking forward to the 2021 Cup Series coming up. But at least as the race winner tonight in the IWRAPS 199. Jeremy, thanks for chatting and congrats.
Thanks.
The race winner tonight from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. We'll continue things down pit road. Jaron Weinmaster wanted it real bad, but couldn't find a look to the outside until the very last second. He settles for second tonight, and he's standing by with Jonathan.
Hey, Aaron, I said you were probably one of the best pushers in the field, and unfortunately, when you're the best pusher, you often get second place. You were really, really close in the end. How was the race going for you?
Oh, man, it was just an amazing race all throughout. I was pretty aggressive in the beginning, pushing Eberhardt there, but that middle parts, I decided to settle down a little and just ride behind the field a little. And then at the end, I knew it was push time, so just got up there and tried to stay with the leaders there and push to the front.
So you're aggressive early, you drop back. Like, how was that middle portion where everyone kind of like single filed out and strung out for a little bit? Do you think we were going to go green all the way, or were you already betting on the cautions at that point?
No, I definitely knew there was going to be some cautions at the end. Everyone gets a little riled up and aggressive, and you start seeing some blocking. And as soon as you see that blocking, you know it's time to back off a little. But there's a point in the race around that 10, 15 laps go where you know it's time to go. If not, you'll just stay back and you won't get a good finish.
Yeah, and how confident were you, like, in the draft? Like, I noticed you were probably one of the smoothest guys when you were able to get right up to someone's bumper. You weren't really moving around. How confident were you, like, in those tight situations?
I'd say I'm pretty confident. I like to get aggressive in situations where you need to be real close on the bumper, especially for those last 2 laps. I barely lifted the throttle because I knew I could just hold the line good and I could get connected on that bumper of Jeremy there. And that's how I think I was able to push him to the front, just being confident in myself.
Well, we have one more week to go at Las Vegas. What are you looking forward to for the final week, and anyone you want to thank before we let you go as well?
I think I'm looking forward to just a 1.5 mile track. I know we've had a lot of short tracks, which I don't think I'm very strong at. And it's especially good to get the momentum up going here at Talladega. So I'm looking forward to next week. And I got to thank Nelson Saunders at Agood Upholstery for helping me fit my seat. And I got to thank all the family and friends that tune in every night. And Source Embroidery, my parents' company, for helping design my car, helping me look good every week. And I got to thank you guys especially for allowing me to race in this league and be a part of these special events every Monday.
All right, well, congratulations on the second place finish, and we're hoping to see you towards the top of the field at Las Vegas next week.
Thank you.
That was the second place for Jaron Weinmaster in the 48 machine. Really strong second place showing from here. But now we move to the third place machine. Matt Danson, he rode at the back for a lot of this race and was kind of fighting hard in that middle group in 3 wide action, almost 15 laps. How intense was it for you, Matt? And how scared were you, especially in that towards the end section where you were in the middle 3 wide for several consecutive laps?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I've got the added fun, of course, of the ping sort of differential, and so often, you know, some cars will look like they're wrecking or they're sort of coming across my nose when they're not really, and whatever. So I've got to try and determine which things are actually happening and which is just you know, the sim trying to trick me. But it was fun. There was a few hairy moments. I thought I was definitely getting turned at you know, 1 or 2 different moments, but yeah, like you said, I just kind of played it cool to start with. You know, for a little while, I was, you know, kind of lucky. Really, we had a yellow at one point. I came into top up and just make myself at the back. Of course, forgetting that we had a bunch of damaged cars at that stage, and I immediately lost the draft. And after that, I just was playing the strategy game, trying put myself in a position to be able to take less fuel if a yellow did come, later on. And if that the yellow with whatever it was, like, was it 15 laps to go, 20 laps to go? If that hadn't come out, I feel like I would have been one of the few cars that was good on fuel at that point in time. So I was preferring that it just stayed green, to be honest. But I'll take a P3. That's pretty good.
You extend your lead over Andrew Freenage. Don't worry, I'm having connection issue too. I'll invest in a really long Ethernet cable down all the way to Australia. I'll make it work. But
nice. Cheers.
Besides that, obviously you're sitting at the back, working your way through the field. And how scary was it? After the 15-lap caution with about 15 to go, you were in that middle 3 wide, I think, for 5 laps in a row. How scary was that? Because you had cars all around you. If something went wrong, like that was race done and over.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you try and do your best to avoid getting any drama, but at some point in time you've got to go. And I knew that Drew wasn't going to just sit at the back, and I wanted to be safe, but I also wanted to get some points. So I'd seen a few of the guys sort of race out there, and I was confident in a couple of them. But like if you haven't raced side by side with people, it's you don't know exactly what to expect. I'm sure the same thing of them for me. Like they don't know exactly what I'm going to do and how to predict my reactions to certain things. So there was a couple of guys I was just sort of keeping aware of, and then there was other ones that I was sort of I could almost predict or I could expect a little bit of what was happening. So it probably wasn't as scary being in the middle. I just really wanted to clear and get at the front, like be the first car in there. But I had Lariah pushing me. He was working real hard with me, but he had damage, so it was real tough. Once we eventually did get clear, I pushed I think it was Agnell, pushed him to the lead, and then I was like, okay, great. Now's my chance to like lock down the middle lane, and then Lariah got hot because he had front end damage, so he couldn't really run right behind me like I needed. So that was a bit of a bummer, but yeah, I mean, you can't complain too much. And I'm glad that Drew was nearby as well. So like we get to sort of take the battle to Vegas. I'm assuming he led. I don't know if he led the most. Perhaps you can tell me. But so I'm assuming maybe I got like an 8-point lead.
I think he led a lap early, but then he fell back. I'm not confident that he led the most at all. I think he only led the 1 lap at the beginning. But now we get to the championship fight at Vegas. What are you looking forward to? First mile and a half, and only mile and a half we have in the schedule. What are you looking for that race?
I feel like I've forgotten how to drive mile and a halves now. So we'll see. It all depends on what the point situation is. Like, I mean, ultimately I'll try and win the race because that's what we do. But also if it comes down to it that I can just play a smart game, maybe I don't need to win. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. But it's been an honor to sort of get to race off against Drew like this so far, and I'm glad that it wasn't decided by either one of us sort of getting wrecked at Talladega.
Well, you all kind of got in a little bit of a scrap at the end. That was a bit amusing, but you still finished well, and congrats on the 3rd place, and we hope you and Freenage have a really good fight next week at Las Vegas.
Thanks, man.
Those are our top finishers, and yeah, I was going to say, and talking about the question marks, let's just go right into the points, right? I mean, let's talk about it. So it was a 4-point difference, and Danson finishes 4 spots ahead of Freenage, but you were correct, Andrew did lead a lap, but not the most. So it'll be a 7-point difference between first and second in the championship, Danson defending and Freenage on the attack. That means that this can still be decided by a single position. If you remember, it was a big flip a couple of weeks back with a maximum points night to get Danson back into a position of advantage. There's a 5-point difference between first and second. There's 2 bonus points available. So there's a legitimate chance that this thing goes down to a tiebreaker. And right now, the advantage goes to Danson with 3 wins to Andrew's 2. If we're going to have a tiebreaker, it's likely because Andrew would win. We'd have to start looking at top 5s and top 10s. So it is a very tight championship battle. And I will agree 100% with what Matt said, that I'm happy it didn't end tonight, right? I mean, you like the thrill and the question marks around Dega. Tonight we got a first-time winner, right, for our 100th different winner in league history. But it's good that they stay close so they can settle it themselves when we head to Vegas.
I think we'd give a round of applause, I think, to almost everyone in the field. There was only like one or two really questionable wrecks that we kind of saw coming, but everyone else, there was really good aggressive driving. Everyone was staying out of trouble, and I am glad that this championship fight can come down to the last one. I'm excited because I think we should have kept Matt in here so we can tell him, like, hey, you might have to win next week, just FYI. It's a little close still, buddy, but 7 points, if it's a win and a second place, if those two are up front, they're going to have to be racing each other ridiculously hard in order to win the championship.
If Danson can lead a lap, just one, then that means that if Andrew wins and Danson finishes second, it's still not enough. So he, in some part, can help himself out. What's the easiest answer? Go out and win, right? They're both going to try to do so. I'm sure Friedage just had a ton of success. And if we could look at the schedule just one more time to a point that you mentioned, Danson kind of joking, I forget how to drive at an intermediate track. Well, the objective of this schedule was to mix it up a little bit. You got Vegas. There's no other intermediate tracks, right? Intermediates are normally the bulk of the calendar. This is the only one there, which I think provides an extra layer of excitement to it, because it's not like we're going back to Vegas and we can be like, 2 weeks ago we were at Chicago, this guy was better, or earlier we were at Charlotte, right? So this is a unique challenge that I'm sure a lot of people, not just your championship tour, are going to be putting in a lot of practice for to close out what I think's been a very memorable season.
Yeah, and the championship fight can be spoiled, and you've seen Daniel Eberhard on there winning at Iowa and winning at New Hampshire. What could he do at Las Vegas? He was quick tonight, just kind of luck did not go his way. And there's several other drivers in that midfield that maybe they need these mile-and-a-half tracks. They're just not good at the short tracks. They need these mile-and-a-half tracks to perform better. So it's honestly as big of a question mark as Talladega as to how everyone performs, because we just don't know. We can say Freenage and Danson will be at the front, but who's going to be there with them? And if they're going to be faster or slower, how does the midfield play out? There's just a lot of question marks about having only one on the schedule. We just don't know.
And with only 1 week left on this winter series, to the point that I stuck in there talking with Jeremy, it's almost Cup Series season. And tomorrow, if you want to be a part of this for 2021 and get your RSR license for the Cup Series and the IWRAPS Series and everything else going in, when I say extremely limited, I mean there's going to be less than 10 spots available in public registration. That is going to be first come, first served tomorrow afternoon at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you go to the website at RealSimRacing.org and either click on the Cup Series tab at the top of the screen or hover over it and click on registration, that's how you can find it. The link's also going to be at RealSimRacing on Twitter and Facebook.com/RealSimRacing online for more information. But we still have a championship to determine, and until then, that's it for us here tonight from the Talladega Super Speedway. So on behalf of our entire team at RSR and RaceSpotTV, for Dylan Coyle, our producer Hugo Luis, for Jonathan Burke, and to myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in. Congratulations to Jeremy Miller, a first-time RSR winner and the 100th different winner in league history. We're back one final time next Monday. That's January the 25th from none other than the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2021 Real Sim Racing IWRAPS Winter Series exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Until next time, we will see you for the championship finale next Monday night.